All right, Legge thoughts here for Georgia's win over the TCU Horned Frogs late as usual after these national championship games. It can get that way. Look, these two teams were not in the same universe. And, I can talk about TCU. There's no point. When I talked about it earlier in the week about if this game was about the Dogs, it was not going to be good news for TCU. That's exactly what happened here. Texas Christian could not possibly be that bad. Georgia can be that good. We've seen this. It's not the only time we've seen Georgia just roll through people. They've done it multiple times. The South Carolina game, the Oregon game, the Tennessee game. You name it. These guys are just rolling through people. So, to me, it was just a thorough beating. And now suddenly there's this discussion about Alabama and all this. Look, it's about Georgia. Alabama is a great program. They've done a lot of stuff right. They're just not as good as Georgia right now. That's all. And how long will that last? I don't know. That could change next year. They played for the national championship a season ago, but more than anything, this is about Georgia having a perfect season without being perfect. That's hard to do. It's hard to. They escaped the Ohio State game. Period. That's what happened there. They were fortunate to win that game, and that was the national championship. It felt like that was the national championship. It turns out that was the national championship. There was a lot of stuff in that game, getting down 14 twice. There's all sorts of stuff in that game. It was that is one of the greatest games I've seen played in a long, long time. And I watched the national championship game in 17, the Rose Bowl. There's been plenty of really great games that I've seen and covered. But that Ohio State game, you had two Goliaths of the sport hitting each other in the head the whole night long. And then all of a sudden, Georgia just comes out of virtually nowhere in the fourth quarter and wins. It was a shocking loss for Ohio State. It cost them the national championship. There is no way that Ohio State loses to TCU. No way. Hey, listen, make sure you're picking up double dogs. We got a lot of people buying this already. And the longer you wait, the longer it will take to get to you. So we're getting this out as fast as possible. Pick up double dogs today. The link is down below. I thought it was, pregame, I could tell that Georgia was locked in. The TCU looks small. They look small. And they just were not ready for what I don't, obviously Georgia's not 60 points better than TCU. Or whatever. I was shocked by the score. I started doing work at the half, and by the time I turned around in the third quarter, it was like it was almost 50-7. TCU was fortunate to score that touchdown. This is as lethal a beating we've seen in a national championship in a long, long time. This was as bad, or whatever you want to call it, as Alabama Notre Dame. Anybody that picks TCU coming into this game needed to really give an explanation as to why. They were 2 touchdown dogs. They, Georgia was a juggernaut. It just doesn't make sense if you'd pick TCU. I want to hear the reason why. Because it just proved completely poor judgment. You have to question folks who are analysts that are doing that. Why are you picking someone straight up, now not points, straight up, to win? Because of it's their team of destiny. Nobody cares about that. Destiny got punched and is knocked out. Destiny there is no such thing. You have to make your own way, and they just had no shot in this game. I don't know. I thought Georgia would win, obviously, but I didn't think it would be like that. And they were just totally ready to play. It was a shocking beating. And, what does this mean now? Back-to-back national championships for the Dogs. I certainly do not expect them to repeat, but people are going to have them ranked number 1 coming into the season. There's no reason to think that. They got to go to Knoxville, so that's a tricky game. But there's no reason to think that they won't be undefeated in 23, other than reality. I mean, you're going to lose at some point. And these guys are 29-1 in their last 30 games. So I mean, I've seen Georgia beat people to death before, but not in a game this big. Not like you're treating them like they're Vanderbilt. I mean, there was just so much. I mean, when we were talking about it before the game, is, hey, do you think these guys are better than Oregon? And I said, I just wasn't sure. They were not as good as Oregon. They weren't. They were winners, but it just got smoked, man. And so it was not a great night for TCU. It was a horrible night for Ohio State, because they lost a national championship for sure. And then we start talking about Michigan. When you make that many mistakes, you deserve to lose. I mean, Georgia made mistakes, if you want to call it that, against Ohio State. Ohio State just played well. Ohio State's good, and maybe it was just a matchup thing with Georgia. But I don't, Kirby now is sitting at 2. He's my age. I don't know how long he'll coach for, but let's just say he goes another, 10 or 15 years. He certainly could have 6 national championships in that time. I don't think Nick's done. And I don't know why. I mean, I do it too. I don't know why I have to immediately discuss Alabama whenever Georgia wins the national championship. And last year it was natural because they beat Alabama. Alabama was not even. I mean, look, Alabama did not belong in the playoff. You cannot lose games like that. Everyone says they're a couple points from X, Y. They're a couple points from 8-4. So it's both. It's they're what they were. They were a really good 11-2 team. They won the Sugar Bowl. It's a big deal, even at Alabama. But they just didn't deserve to be in the playoff, and Georgia to beat them too. I mean, Georgia beat Tennessee's brains in. They beat LSU by 20. Alabama lost to LSU. So I mean, look, the best program in the country right now just happens to be these guys, the ones in red. And they are losing a quarterback who has been spectacular, if not in a way that nobody figured would happen. I certainly did not. But over time, I mean, you could see that what Stetson could do, and he was just exceptional through the years. He was through the 2 seasons, and Kirby talked about that this morning, about his ability to run and all this stuff. It makes a big difference to have a quarterback who could move. And Georgia's not going to have that next year the way they do this year. I mean, Stetson's ability to run, you saw that against TCU. I think he scored 2 rushing touchdowns. That twirl deal that he did on second or third down, I can't remember when it was. First quarter, I think. But he was Stetson Bennett's career at Georgia has been remarkable. Remarkable. I mean, it is hard to put into words the unlikely nature of his climbing to the top of the mountain in college football. I mean, the guy is this is crazy to say, the guy is one of the greatest quarterbacks in college football history. It's insane to say that, but the results speak for themselves. I mean, he's not just the guy that throws the ball to the other team. He's out there making plays. Now, sometimes that got him in trouble, right? They got them in trouble against Ohio State. But then he saved them. So there's some Jekyll and Hyde there, but I think, for Georgia, a 3-peat, again, very unlikely, just because you're starting with so many different kids again. It will almost certainly be Carson Beck as your starting quarterback, who is very, very good. But it's just a different cast of characters. It is very unlikely. It is not out of the realm of possibility that they win the national championship again next year. Now, it's unlikely, right? I mean, at some stage, Ohio State's going to win the national championship. They're too good. They have too many good players. And you just don't keep winning forever. So, TC, the national championship was in Atlanta. And we just flew out here to California to watch Georgia kick the shit out of TCU. It's just what it was. But I don't know. I don't know that we will see as dominant a performance as we saw last night in national championship history in the next couple decades. It's just not going to happen. So it was an amazing lecture on the difference between the Southeastern Conference and others and other leagues. TCU didn't even win their league, and it was a very good team. They belonged in the playoff, but it was just shocking how much worse they were. Ohio State played great against Georgia and nearly beat them. Probably should have beaten them, but you know, Georgia dug it out. Alabama has done that forever. Really, really good teams dig out wins out of nowhere, and that's what they did in Atlanta. Here, they didn't have to dig anything. I mean, TCU was fortunate to score, and Georgia scoring that many points was insane. Y'all know it too. But normally I do these from inside the stadium, but we get so backed up at national championship games. I mean, it just gets so late at night. It is a disaster every single time. So, as you can hear, I'm outside the airport. Make sure you're picking the book up now. We're going to get backed up. I can tell you that right now. So order it today. The link is down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.